Tonight, I'd like conspiracy theorist, which meant or exposers. Our job is a lot, and then proposing, and then shot the man, something like that. You lonely, like I am. Events brought up travel between major cities in the U.S. I saw it on C-SPAN, and mother's birthday party said, "Hey," she goes, I just went, "Do you just went? Do you not remember walk?" And she just, "Do you not remember walk?" And she just, them is I don't know them is I don't know. Especially I've got a sister, and they deflect it, and they just. Well, especially I've got a sister, and they deflect it, and they just walk away thinking, I swear it's got some things in there you're going to understand. Nope. I've had family members say that. Or friends. I've had family members say that. Or friends. I've had friends actually look into or watch videos that I mentioned. Sometimes strangers, you this out. Or you something, they found it. And Eddie Bravo, when he first discovered a lot of conspiracy going on in the world, when most people figure out that there's a large cabal of elites that are running everything, and they run the major organization, and they run the major organizations that on their unit, there's the United Nations map. It actually is. It's called the azimuth straight out. Radius is like spokes on a wheel. And it is a way to measure distance. I remember seeing it in my elementary school. We had maps hanging on a big wooden machine that rolled all these maps over, and you would twist the roller and the maps would fall over. They were all spooled. And as you would turn it and flip a map over, then you would show another map. Do you remember those units in the library that held the maps? Or is it just me? I've got video capture, you're looking at what I'm looking. This was called the alien interview. If you've capture, you're looking at what I'm looking. This was called the alien interview. If you've seen it, you know exactly. And I'm trying not to make that. I do that, and you're in the chat. And I'm trying not to make that. I do that, and you're in the chat. Please chat. And a Y or an N, fill in the blank. You about people who believe it's real. I've seen the interviews with the animatronics experts in Hollywood that are trying to say see if they could replicate. There's one move that it does that I don't know how it was done. I could not do it. So it gave, plausible deniability, like, maybe it is real. Other known creatures like grays. Doesn't look like the ones from Roswell. Doesn't look like the ones that doesn't look like, see, I just did that sound, I'm sorry. Does not look like other beings listed. There are listed the Nordics and the gray and poking, and then there's ones that are about or dark gray, mesh, have the flashbacks of seeing we're wearing that suit. If your mom was waiting for you, you gonna hurry up for dinner? One of them actually did that. With their hands on their hips, waiting. So aliens can wait. They know how to wait. See the screen. Where, if YouTube, if the video has been up long enough, if you look at, they go like that. Just highlight the red bar, and it's are actually true. It's you just
here embedded in the ad, and how long you watched a certain ad.
That was the project. Who knows about the project? But it's where they would drug men. The people, they got the ladies through one-way mirrors. This is what, my 14th episode. Hold on a second. So they're making Manchurian Candidate. Here's a person that talks about how to talk to the conspiracy theorist in your family. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Have let basically QAnon. I do not follow QAnon. That stuff is sick. It's not real. About some conspiracy or something that may be controversial, and when I bring it up, I am told, no, on QAnon. You know, I've actually never been on Reddit. I don't know what that means, and I don't know how to get there, and I'm proud to say that. I've never, ever, ever listened to that because I've only seen reports on it, like in the news channel on Reddit, and they read that John F. Kennedy. If you're in the chat, let me know. Juan Silva. And there was a date, I think 4 or 5 years ago, he was supposed to show up in Dallas, telling a friend, do you really? He died when his plane crashed that was wanted by Hillary. And that was her way to stay at her home and her residency in New York and began with the Senate seat. You know, I actually read like how many times she voted. Didn't do much work while she was in there. And I'm having a problem with some difficulty where sometimes my video will freeze up. But I'm going to show you this guy. I'm going to watch it. Lives destroyed. They've gone too far. I've been accused of being like this, and I'm not at all like this. And I do not follow QAnon. Do not follow that. You know, they just throw gold into the reserves so that the dollar's worth something again, and we'll go back on a gold standard with the value being measured by gold. Actually, it was never backed by gold. It was pegged to the price difference in gold. If gold went up 5% in price, percentage for debt slips, and that's why they're called bills. So know that.
Conspiracy theories. He has had a total break. They are controlling the United States.
And someone else can take their.
You know what? I remember in Sunday school, there went that smack, damn it. Not in church. We're just people about interesting subjects and maybe laugh and joke about things while we're here and look at people who we call crazy, but we love them. I don't hate anybody. My exes, I do, but let's have a prayer. Father, we gather here tonight are unusual for most people. They don't. They're not covered, Father, and they are to not look at them to make them go away. It's like a child covering their eyes so that whatever is in front of them will disappear. And we Earth's frequency or not believe in make huge changes, but like in research, we can help to awaken people. Things that we are talking about today in 2025 were unknown to people just a decade ago in 2015. And now the next generation says that their parents were conspiracy theorists and they know all of them and they know all the stories now. These things are out there. They're real subjects. Some of them are fake and they're not real. And please help us to have discernment as we do research to find this right now while on the chat. Let's please rev it up, Father, so that we can have a very interesting conversation with yes and no's. And okay, let me go back in and restart that one for you.
Place.
They can kind of swap
Killed me, and that say that his siblings were walking zombie.
This is on Dr. Phil, by the way, 4 years ago.
Texted Brandon and he didn't.
I just didn't feel like it was my sister. The picture looked photoshopped.
Brandon insisted that I hold something with a time and date to my face and send. I'm afraid he's become delusional.
Of the time,
Brandon thinks that mom is trying to.
and Brandon's marriage started falling.
He was working full time. He avoided him.
Since then, he starts screaming.
Changing their family because they start bringing up more of a cursing out his mother and saying, oh, but
Masked the only time here I had given him Bill is very hateful, would not get that tongue lashing. A son, not a husband.
That's a weird story. I actually, even during a divorce, I needed some cash, but not $25,000. And but what do you think? Is anyone listening here? Please chat. Have you ever had to ask your mom or your dad for money? Furious at them and fighting for this cash that we had, and we got. And she actually had to stay away from the mom. She says to try
that
to
he
skip
was
the
very
Dr. Phil part.
functional, very successful, high functioning, fit right in with the flow of.
Told that I'm wrong,
But there
but
are
I
times
think
that he will call you and seem
So the rest of
lucid,
that's
correct?
not as interesting. But this guy obviously just has some with his life. Somebody crossed him. The family conspiracist. Who someone says that there's someone in everyone's family. That's the conspiracist. Oh, I was talking about Eddie Bravo and I cut myself off. But he came out and then he discovered flat Earth, and he went full guns I'm going to wake up the world. Everybody, you have to look into it. And he kept saying, look into it. But he wasn't showing the actual math. He's not a mathematician, and he didn't have the facts, and he couldn't remember the equations or the points and the actual machinery or whatever was being mentioned that's false. If he would have just done that, people would have looked into that. And I think by a lot of conspiracy theory. Oh, yeah. And rain and snow. People want to laugh every line out of your mouth if you're murdering the crowd. And sometimes, are we doing this on our mind because of our research? Members, how are you doing? What did you do this? Watch this woman. She started watching QAnon, which it is so silly. They say things like on December 4th, this is going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. And they go, oh. Then they say on this date, everyone's going to turn themselves in, and this woman's going to go to Guantanamo, and that person, and then all of the children that have been trafficked are going to be released. And the bomb in Beirut, that was to Juan O'Savin, the son of in Dallas, on this ever say comes to pass. Besides that,
his friend and team shortly after the
got more argumentative, got more personal when I didn't agree with him and stuff like that. I distinctly remember having an argument about Obama being the Antichrist. Yeah, he told me that most of the people in power in the government are part of an elite pedophile ring.
Obama
and
was
then I
the
looked up
Antichrist.
what QAnon was because I wasn't super familiar, and like some of their beliefs and some of the things that he had been saying.
Let me stop it right there. For the Christians are trying to figure out who is the Antichrist. The problem is, like you're talking about Obama, the people changed Obama forth on the river by the daughter of the Pharaoh, brought into the elongated skull. And you can see where the two stories cross over each other quite a bit. How can you even deny that both were found in a basket floating on the Nile River by the daughter of the Pharaoh and brought into the house? Who's the Antichrist? I think it's metaphorical. I don't think there's going to be one person or man that stands up and you have to remember, even that book, the New Testament, is just a book that by Constantine to a group of presbyters redacted, that's how you look at it. Believe that every single word in the Bible is from God. Think the people who say that, they must not speak any other languages. They're not bilingual or trilingual like I and understand somewhat. I could get by if people say every single word is with people who haven't traveled out much. With the age of the internet, since the world is connected on the interwebs, you hear less and less, and things just drop away. You don't hear people, good for you, try that or that. No, these days we just go online and we go to sites that help patients consider going to the doctor or the emergency room. We can look up, I'll be listening to people a lot and I'll hear a word that's a new vocabulary word and I'll stop the video and I'll ask Google, what does this word mean? Write jokes all the time and I'll, or somebody mentions a town that they live in, town is, look around the areas, be an idle listener when you're trying to learn. Hold on, wait till you see
It all kind of clicked with me.
It's those QAnon catchphrases that people say.
Hold on, let me make sure it's on.
Don't think.
Sometimes when I play these videos,
family still lives in the area, said growing up in northern as he started following QAnon and pushing its
That's how out of character.
if you're here,
this
please chat so I know
behavior
you're here.
You're looking at your father saying these
Let's
things.
be a little
and
more
you're like, I
interactive
don't
and I'll
even
ask some
know
yes and no
what I'm
questions if somebody's
seeing and
here.
hearing.
100%. That the Clintons, that person. I don't
Haiti
know who that
brought
was.
in some doubts
She
about
is not
that.
alone in feeling lost. On Reddit, a subreddit called QAnon Casualties has more than 150
in some capacity, and I think
inside the mind of QAnon.
you have to have great
Point out inconsistencies in QAnon during President Biden's course did not come true.
But I think the idea is that we do them, and the only thing they have left in their life is Q.
In fact, part of the reason this woman did not want to be identified is because she hasn't given up on her dad and bringing him.
A lot of people are going through this separation.
Nurse says there is no hope of text message
I can't stand what you helped to do.
to speak to her.
Members, because you here's a man, this is the subscribers, I've never heard of him, seen of his, and he's talking with people who breaking up family. 2006 on 11. A lot of interesting things on YouTube at that time. YouTube was not owned by Google, it was a new startup, and you could find anything you wanted to research on there, and there were a lot of videos that were showing and exposing. And then when it was bought by Google, that you did not see, like George Green, for example. Go to YouTube. That was George Green. Oh no, that's 18 about clones. Truths about things like electromagnetism and what was the other top? He was one of these guys, kind of like.
My George is up first here. Perspective.
I was going to ask people, yes or no, in the chat, if you've seen Project Camelot before, if you recognize her or this guy. This is Bill Ryan. I first started looking at conspirators and how corrupt the bankers. White House. Forward into it and see what he's got going on.
Contact with all of you.
This guy actually started banks.
The Bank of International Settlements, which is, I don't know what good that's going to do because it's the old story. Figures don't lie, but liars figure. We have a problem in the United States drastically. Have any idea? It's the equinox. What does it begin? The fall. Historically, the fall begins, they tell you that in the news if you listen to it.
Markets usually fall in October, but...
And as I did this, I learned that I got to convince all of you people to manage your money, we're going to put it in a mutual fund. Well, you don't mean right. A little interesting group of people because, as they knew, Rockefeller basically was backing Obama when they first come out. The problem in the United States is the average weight, as we get a generation right now to a 2000, they shut down because of the EPA and the cost of everything.
What's interesting for me is this man, George Green, said in an interview with Bill Ryan and Kerry Cassidy, they were in an SUV and I mean, look at your started banks and like things that we hear about, like owned land, very wealthy people in their pocket. And I sat there and I thought, oh, holy crud. I was talking to a man who in the industry, senior manager in a laboratory that sold vaccines, manufactured vaccines. And the CEO was a banker. In his pocket, it wasn't just change from wherever he was, But I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I look at your coins you have there? You sound like you have some pretty big coins. And he said, you want to see my cover, what the names were on those coins I'd heard of. Another one I didn't do that. Cassidy, he says, well, you know how you can spot them, that they always have 5 gold coins in their pocket. Yeah. What? Now, if this guy got up and told that story, and then how much more of what he says can you go ahead and believe if he's still that you knew, and you actually knew the person, or you knew something about it, or you were taught about it, or you knew about it before? Say like the aliens in the Roswell. How old were you, or what year when you heard about the Roswell crash? I think I can remember hearing about it in about 1976. Experience that I did not remember yet because I had not had the flashbacks yet. But I heard about that Roswell crash, and my mother had a book on the bookshelf from Lieutenant Corso. I think his name was Philip Corso, and he wrote a book about the crash at Roswell and how a lot of the aluminum foil stuff sheets that kind of like aluminum foil that would not wrinkle, saw some in the ground. And I told you before in the pre-90s, in 92, he told me all about being in the barracks and going out into the... So he was told to stand around the ship over the 2 bodies laying on a blanket and look that were like up to their neck, and one of them had a burnt left cheek and his chest was burnt, and their faces were like how the compression got Bill. Man, we got to suit up and we're going out into the desert and we have to clean up a plane crash from a Hollywood movie production, and the plane got out of control, and I've never heard that story before where the soldiers were told, the ones who actually cleaned up the crash site were told that it was a science fiction project, actors that were deformed while the pressurized cabin had done something to them, because he had just heard about airplanes that were starting to have pressurized cabin look like that. So it was interesting when I was talking to this man, he actually I've since left that because the way it was set up. Let's say if you had a church, it was just all the connections and everything about. You might look up on YouTube John Todd bloodlines of the Collins family, and his first name was Lance Collins, and he lived in San Antonio, Texas. The business is, I guess it's like a family mafia, and you just go and that would include everything from bribes to money for people who are doing things. Influence Kirk is someone who refused, but said out loud, openly, just days before he died, that he had decided not to follow PUSA. But so this guy, John Todd, is interesting. He's got some videos on YouTube where he gave talks at Christian churches when he was born again, where he had actually done in the army when he was in Europe. And he asked his foster mother, the Bewitched show, own them. When you owning admiralty law and how that affect over our Constitution. And that's because we're a corporation. Whenever you see the gold fringe around the flag, and there's law. Merit school that Eric Kirk went to at ASU shipped thousands of containers all over the world. What jurisdiction crane, and you're the shipper, and it's going on the boat here in the United States. It hit honor there have to make a claim. You decide. They're aboard. Shop Incoterms. Incoterms, Wikipedia. Let's see what they are. Let's start from start to finish. End up talking about Incoterms. Let me make sure my screen, you're capturing what I see when I look on this. Okay. All right. You see this CEXW? Like if that thing fell in the water, if I had shipped it, let's say they bought it. Now, FOB International is not the same delivery. The seller makes the goods available at their premises. All right. Let's say once the customer sends a truck and backs it up and the forklift puts that product in their truck, that's it. Title is changed. If that truck gets struck by lightning in the parking lot and everything, the buyer's going to have to pay for everything. Free carrier, name, place. Now, this is free carrier. That's on the truck. Even if it's going by ship, the goods can be delivered to a carrier nominated by the buyer or another party nominated by the buyer. So the buyer sends a truck. In many respects, this Incoterm has replaced FOB in the modern age. Free carry. So it's actually FCA. When people just don't even know what Incoterm's on, they just go, yeah, it's FOB. They think you have to say the letters FOB before you name a city. Yeah, it's FOB Billings, Montana. But in ocean vessels, it's much longer. Port. Carriage and insurance paid. CIP. This has changed. This is a broader term, which means I used to. So they've changed CIF. Delivered at place, unloaded. That's abroad at the foreign port. Carriage and insurance paid. Named it foreign port, like say Buenos Aires. And we would insure it until it got to that port of destination. Then they would have to send their local carrier to go pick it up. If you ship something overseas, they're shipped CIP. I make it. I get my local truck carrier, a consolidator, to take it to the port. It'll sit on the dock next to the ship, which is the place of destination. If it says the boat, it goes on the boat. Once it in them with the bill of goods and the documents and the declarations, and then they get it all off of there. Who makes all of this up? Who makes up all of the international rules? They come from the Maritime Admiralty Law. But Maritime Admiralty Law also, how Sekevi is in our name is legal fiction. That's why our name is in all caps. It's all Maritime Admiralty Law. And I studied that in my graduate work. So when people talk about this and they call it a theory or say that it's not true, and I tell them, no, it is true. And you have to watch, then you have to go by the law of the water law, Admiralty Law. And forget your Constitution. That's how, if we declare emergency, the blue hats of the UN can come in and take over law enforcement. And that's how you get sidelines to your Constitution, where the law of water would actually take over. So anyway, that's one theory I got on the sidetrack of. If you're in the chat, please say something. We are talking about families that have conspiracy. Let me start that other video again. This guy.
Someone shares asking.
I've tried to describe that to people, that the Incoterms for shipping things, how they work, where the goods change title, and how it's all run by this, or the Jesuit side of it. And if I pointed that out, if I said, go read, just like I did, and the world government rolls out completely the law.
Facebook. Others may be hearing it at work. So that the information is trustworthy. How it makes it believable? How would they know with a genuine curiosity? That would be less believable. And a lot of this is not necessarily for you to understand their level of media literacy, although that is useful. But again, in properly vetted and evaluated the conspiracy or the fake news that I'm sharing right now. And then maybe the hardest part is to really follow through on the assumption that if their conspiracy theory was real, then what other things would have to be real? And this one requires a little more knowledge and nuance. Imagine that you're right about this conspiracy theory. Imagine that what you're saying is true. What would happen next? What are you anticipating it would mean in terms? Share it if I can find it. I retweeted a really good Twitter thread that I went over last week on a stream where there was like a Hollywood screenwriter talking to a conspiracy theorist woman back in president that she was and this guy started asking specific questions. Okay, how will it be carried out?
I turned off my background.
Biden be gone.
I think maybe that.
Well, he's going to be Joe Biden had actually already died and been replaced with an imposter at some point in the past. And it was fascinating to see the questions that followed, which included, oh, how did Biden die? How was it covered up? How many words if Biden was going to steal the election either way from Donald Trump? And a really good example of the types of questions. Last thought on this. Just because this idea, this Trumpists last week aren't even open to this.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that are, I find that this method seems to be the best one. Let me know your thoughts if you've had success with this method.
Even listen and in my room, but I think this might help keep the screen from freezing. Let's put it on the other deal. I'm going to let him play without volume. And we're going to see if it freezes. Just tell me as I'm talking. Okay, see, look, it froze already. Let me restart. Okay. Okay, my background's not on the ISS, so we'll see if it freezes. My computer may not be able to handle let's see. So just let something go. Let's say if you told someone there was a clone of Biden that took over against Trump. Like he said, why wouldn't they just have Biden do it if Biden was already there? You know, there's a big theory I've heard now that, you know, Trump or Biden was never in the White House, actually, because he was not allowed in. There were people like Black Berets and high-level military people that did not let Biden in the White House. And someone said it was built by house in the White House property. And can you imagine? Let's go back and look. Is that an ad? Oh, I already went to another video. Stand up on the spot with Jeremiah Watkins. It's still going. All right, so give up conspiracies if they're too much. Like I remember telling my friend when he thought that Gasara is it's the big event that's supposed to happen where everybody is going to have elite billionaire change of heart and equally distribute, where no one even thinks about money or starvation or needing shelter. I think we should have a world that runs that way. Work, and the animals can do everything. That yet, I don't know how many viewers I have because I do not have a view counter. Sometimes I find out after I've done the video, I go back and see that there were people that came in some little improvements. I put a Y. It was on here, Dupsy Daisy. I don't know, folks. I have scheduled because I have a medicine at 6 and 12, 6 and 12. So when the alarm goes, I make some coffee and I go through what I've looked at during the day. Usually in the evening around dinner time, I'll start preparing my lesson. It's just like doing Sunday school. People that were, let's go back and look at that. Did I finish that story with her?
I actually got married.
100. The Clintons are running a child sex ring. Like I don't know who that was.
She is not.
Oops, it stopped.
Run into QAnon.
Pastels and
We
pedophiles
saw that part.
inside
People
the
get
mind
sucked
of
into QAnon.
That they've abandoned, their families have abandoned them, and the only thing they have left in their life is Q.
Into the family fold.
Separation.
I've gone. They're off and they're doing. I hear from them. I'm the conspiracist. So, 4 sons. He would listen to me like, hey, guess what I found out? Have you ever heard of Michelle? 2 questions. So who's saying this other than you sharing, or he didn't ever call me point in my life, about men will go through this. I went through it when I was their age. Close. Because of theorist, I get less and less attention. At one point, I also announced that I was a flat earther. And that, have you lost your mind? These idiots, the way unawake QAnon. I can't even believe anybody follows that. It's like, oh, we missed that one. God's going to help us. I don't know what else to do. That happens. Well, sooner or later, if we keep praying, we'll quit watching QAnon. No matter what they say, it doesn't come to pass. Nothing. Example where I'm an economist by training, so I'm a high mathematician, and I've had 600 level math, which is second year into graduate 500, 600 level math. And some of them were all of the, I studied casinos and gambling and predictability and all the games in a casino, working in some organization like Ballot. But the 100 level math classes that I took, same way that in economics, like 8 months later, the interest rates will go down. You find some correlation. So you're always looking through correlation studies and correlation and equation squares, and you're trying to draw a trend line through umpteenth number of dimensions. Linear regression, you can have an unlimited number that's supposed to be the line that has the least amount of average variance between all of the points. It's the best representative line. If you were to predict, you would say, how many flats are people, if they have in Montana, how many flats would there have to be in Maryland for the interest rate to be here? And then you use the model to predict. Predictive programming is what I learned in school. But not only that, there are different formulas and equations, but a lot of it is, if the escape and you have 25,000 and then you lose, a man starts walking at 3 o'clock towards approximately 4.5 miles an hour. In train station B, a train takes off and heads towards station A. And the train has an average speed of 75 miles an hour. How far from station A will the man have walked? Can you do that? That's from the GMAT, the General Management Admissions Test. Doctors, there's 3 professions. There are 3 professions. The one that counts, like I went to BYU was second to Yale. There is one of the steps going to sit down and listen. And have you got it? I mean, it's happened a few times. It's like everybody knows people that don't believe in flat earth. And there are a lot of mathematicians in this and going over it. And then they come out with a video and make fun of us. They go and they say things that are just, it's a globe that's on the World Health Organization map. Now, why is that? Well, that map is, if you believe it's a globe, it's a ball-shaped globe. Gives you how many feet? 5 feet. And then if it's 6 miles away, you square it. Well, I went to sleep inverted. How far away it was is so 126 feet tall. And I can calculate that stuff, but I disappear. And know the square root. What was it? Show you. Here's my pen. Let me show you real quick. Height, square root, 1 point. It's that simple. I did that in my sleep. I woke up. Have you ever had a dream doing something in a classroom? Oh, that was a dream. I'm so done. I remember I woke up and I was crying. I had this equation in my mind, just like that. Miles equals square root of height times 1.5. And I got up and I took a shower. What happened is I had gone to bed the night before after I was in a chat with some people that were discussing flat earth. That's based on the survey. Most of the examples are going to be less than 100 miles. The Navy binoculars can see 107 miles, but that should not be true because there's not a ship that tall. But it's in the manual. I've actually ships to do watch. And I read the manual to see how far they could see. It's 107 miles. And that does not work with this formula. Now, according to know how the distance over a curve of the surface, it's squared. You square the miles, and you come up with what they call drop, like how far it drops and it disappears. But you can call it height as well. So this one, if you said 5, that easy. Just if I've got a building that's 100 feet tall, and I say, I hold my calculator sideways, so the calculators don't work that way. That you see my, just hit that square root of 150 equals, we're on there. Is it reading backwards? 12.2 miles. According to the surveyor's handbook, it's going to disappear in 12.24. Will disappear, and you get on the earth as a sphere. But this is on how you can think. If I'm standing here, you're going to disappear below my, and disappear if it's a 100 equation. Like the miles. If I, let me hold it up like a 12.24 square. 9 degrees inverse power. You have to do it mechanically. Let me see, how do I, you can see it correct too. It's 0.24 something is times 8 inches. When you do flat earth calculation, inverse of 1.5 is feet. You feet tall, you don't say how much it's, then you have to get a step in your math. Here I have thirds, which is times, and you're going to say times 6 to the decimal. 99 just did it backwards. I proved it to come backwards with the next day, and else times 8 inches. Standing here, you're on the, oh, you're not in the boat. Now you're on what I have to go before this building next to it equals, you take the height. 1.5 is the inverse. Your calculator? No, that's 1.5. But divided by 1. What's the inverse of 1.5? You just do it by hand. 5. Answer. See, it says 0.666666. Okay, if I did the same thing, if I said 1, okay, do you see it? And that's the inverse, the drop when the building will disappear. It's 1.5 because it's I have an answer with jumbled inches and feet at the same time. Water. So, no, you bring in a telescope. I was thinking about explain rabbit hole, and a lot of times I don't spend my day at work. They just started watching YouTube videos in 7. And companies, and I went to Egypt. We used to go and stay there. Why don't y'all just rent an apartment? Early 90s. This is before. So I know things. And I see, oh, that's a rectangular Egyptian jars, they're called. Was you a theorist? Or no. I was in and spent a whole day. I go, oh, look, bird flying, and the draining tables rain down toward keep the blood. That slip when Horus comes and gets you, like you can mummy, and the mummy was on a cart that he'd bought like 13 or 14 out with wild drawn by that drawing. And I've told my brother about that. And Toto, I call myself Toto sometimes. Under the curve, it was Toto that discovered everything with the isolation a bit. Nothing surprises. Try to do anything about anything, just stay out of the way. A few viewers that may have come, and those people we know who may be thought to discover these things are research with, please help us to bless those who have some miracles and medicines, and this we have some miracles and medicines, and this we pray, amen. Thank you for coming, so I'll set up the few and pray, amen. Thank you for coming, so I'll set up the few and we're almost going on.